Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without a Hank. My name is John Green. I'm the manager of the AFC Wimbledon Wimbly Womblys, who are in the Premier League playing Aston Villa Football Club, who today are wearing the bright green of cowards and goalkeepers, while we wear the blue of victors. And I can't think of the right word. What's the opposite of a coward, Meredith? A hero. Victors and heroes. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. That's really, you know what? That's great assistant management. Really solid. Sometimes people say, like, well, I don't understand. Like, why do you need two people to run the team? Well, that's why. You just heard it right there. That was the word I was looking for, Meredith, for real. So today I'm going to talk about how YouTubers are portrayed in the media. But first I want to talk about Callum Kennedy's hair. My God, it's so horrible. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. John Green, Nate Bennett is our captain today. He is going to be leading a team that is currently in 8th place behind only Spurs, Newcastle, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United. Seb Brown's back in goal where he belongs. John Green and John Green up front. We've got Mose Vestergaard and Frankenstein, Dr. Not Monster, out on the wings today. Anchoring our midfield, Hells, Pels, and Les Moore. It's a strong side. We need to win games like this, but it's going to be a little bit difficult because Aston Villa, in their cowardliness, have chosen to be the exact same color as the grass. That will make it difficult for us to tell when it is a player that is an opponent and when it is just grass. So today I want to talk about how YouTubers are portrayed in the media. My brother wrote an amazing, amazing essay, link in the doobly-doo, about this. A beautiful essay at Medium about, in the wake of his interview with the president, especially about the way that Glozell and Bethany were portrayed by the media, and that there was a bit of a talking point that that Barack Obama had made time for these YouTubers, but wouldn't make time for person X or person Y, and that was ridiculous because these weren't serious people. These are people who eat cereal out of a bathtub and talk about beauty and are just, silliness. It's one of the things that's interesting to me about this is that Hank and I should say me. I have I've largely escaped this because I was a writer. My first book came out before our first YouTube videos. So like I was in the minds of media people, I was a writer first. That said, even now, I mean, definitely, my books are seen, like, to some extent correctly as being like off the post, and it was a beauty. That could have been the greatest goal in the history of the Wimbly Womblys, but instead it's just another time that we hit the post. You remember when Dini, ensured that we went up to the Premier League with that ridiculous outside-the-box bicycle kick, Meredith? It's one of the greatest moments of my life. I have 2 children. I love them both very much, and when they were born, it was a very special moment. But it was also a very, very, very special moment when Dini made that ridiculous bicycle kick from outside the box and ensured his future as a Wimbly Wombly. He was on the trading block before then. We were going to transfer him. I was done with that guy, and now I'm stuck with him for life, whether I like it or not. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, maybe I get it a little bit, but like I feel like I'm mostly sort of exempted from the way that people talk about YouTubers. Look, we're asking people whose lives and careers are threatened by YouTubers to be cool and open-minded about YouTube, and that's asking a lot. So I think maybe that's the first problem, is that we've got to remember that, like, the mainstream media, cable networks, newspaper reporters, like these people's careers are threatened by the growth of the internet and by, instead of institutions rising to prominence, it's individuals or small collectives, and that's a big change. And there are things lost in that change. Like, there are definitely things that are going to be worse about that change. There are also things that are going to be better, and I think I think in the end, like, it's a trade that I'm in favor of, but I'm biased too. So I get that a little bit. Oh, it has to be, and it is. It's John Green. He's big, he's tough, he has a ginger puff. Other John Green. My favorite thing was that celebration, Meredith. You see that? It's just 2 men who love each other. Bald John Green got on the back of his husband, other John Green, whispered into his ear, that was a beautiful goal. I love you so much. Thank you for taking care of JJ, our beautiful son. It was great. It was an amazing, amazing moment. You know what his full name is? John. Yeah, I understand it. But look, the mainstream media portrays YouTubers as idiots. That's basically, and as they don't really understand that YouTube is anything other than cat videos. And that's fine, because that's kind of, in a way, it's good, because it's allowed us to like quietly ply our trade without interference from big corporations. Like, the Wall Street Journal is a really good newspaper, but it's never succeeded at making good internet video, and that's kind of nice for me, because it's allowed me to do it instead. Oh my God! 2 goals in like 2 minutes. John Green, get on the, yes, kiss the ground. Kiss the ground that you love. Oh, he's saying, you know what he's saying right there? He's saying AFC Wimbledon, the real team, needs to be back in Wimbledon, back at Plough Lane, so that they can kiss the ground and feel the connection to their historic land in the same way that the Wimbly Womblys get to. Right now, AFC Wimbledon is trying to rebuild a stadium that is where the stadium that was Plough Lane, the stadium that was originally their stadium for 100 years before it was taken away from them, and then eventually the team was moved to Milton Keynes. They're trying to get that rebuilt, so hopefully that'll happen for them. Anyway, great first half from the Wimbly Womblys, despite the fact that Aston Villa is wearing the green of cowards and those who would like to disappear into the turf. We are defeating them. So that's a good start. I think, I guess, like my concern in all of it is that if you aren't on YouTube, right, like you probably think that they're right, that Glozell is a creator who primarily eats cereal out of a bathtub, instead of seeing it in its proper context, which is that like Glozell is a really interesting and complicated creator who makes lots of different kinds of content. And like that inability to see the to allow for nuance or to allow for complexity is a lot of what I think is hurting is hurting media now. Like, there's a hunger for news and for breaking news and for the new thing, but there doesn't seem to be much emphasis on context. So you don't know who Glozell Green is. I'm going to tell you in a sentence. Well, no, you're not. Like, you're not going to tell me in a sentence. You're going to give me, one facet of the story in a sentence. So if you're going to take the time to talk about Glozell, like, talk about her. Don't make don't make these broad generalizations that don't hold up to scrutiny, because then you end up just kind of embarrassing yourself with the people who do know what they're talking about, do know something about that world, and it just, yeah, it's a great, that to me is where they really fall short. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, these people have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to talk about what matters, to talk about the news, to talk about what's happening in the world. And they do a really, I would argue, a pretty darn good job of reporting what's happening right now and uncovering things that are happening right now. But they do a terrible job at providing context. So you don't know the meaning of those things that are happening right now. Like, it's, they do a good job of saying the president spoke to YouTube stars, but they don't tell you what YouTube stars mean. And in many cases, they didn't tell you, in that particular thing, they didn't tell you what the frickin' questions were about. And what I found most interesting about that, that whole encounter between with Hank and Bethany and Glozell and the president, was that the questions were about Boko Haram, and the questions were about our evolving relationship with Cuba, and about drones and the way that technologies, particularly military technologies, tend to be overutilized when they first emerge, going back to the Gatling gun. And those are really interesting questions that I'm not hearing in presidential press conferences with the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And like, instead of taking a cue from that, in many cases they tried to be dismissive of the people asking the questions, and that was a little disappointing to me, I have to say, because yeah, because you can do better. Like we know people are interested in context. We know people are hungry. I think people are hungrier for context than they are for news. You can get news from anywhere. It's increasingly hard to find good ways to find out what the news means. You know, like it's easy to find out that Boko Haram had a suicide bombing yesterday. It's really hard to find out who Boko Haram are, or where they operate, or what their level of influence is, whether they're you know, whether they enjoy popular support in the communities where they are, you know, they are essentially functioning as the government. And that's the really important question, right? I mean, those are the really, that's the stuff that you need to know to understand the world better. And I don't think they do a good job of that. So I think, to me, the sort of like the way that the mainstream media portrays YouTubers in general is an outgrowth of that kind of inability to grapple with context. And it's not limited to YouTube, right? I mean, it's also like we always, in the YA author world, like we always feel that way when they write about young adult literature. And I'm sure that in the world of like, you know, electric cars, people feel that way when they write about electric cars. Like it's, I think it's a general problem of not being able to be serious when it comes to you know, historical and political and economic context. And you know, we see that, and it's but then there's also the element of just generally dismissing youth culture, which goes back, I'm probably 250,000 years to the first human beings. But you know, and there's no question that, like, because most viewers of YouTube are under 30, and most people in media are over 30, that they're like, well, these people must not know what they're talking about. You know who does know what he's talking about? Other John Green. Fantastic performance against the Hidden Green Men of Aston Villa today. 2-0 to the good guys. Thank you for your support. This season is turning out to be A-okay so far. It looks like we're going to stay in the Premier League, and more than that, it looks like we can start to dream of greater things. And I'll tell you what, guys, the pleasure of football, whether you're talking about the pixelated kind or the other kind, is the pleasure of dreams. Thank you for watching. Best wishes.